If you had all the women, the Caucasian women in this country who are 50, about 1 out of 6 of those will fracture a hip during their lifetime, sometime during their lifetime. So wouldn't it be interesting if we could figure which of the 1 out of 6 would fracture? And this was sort of a question that Finnish researchers asked recently, and they had a very novel way of assessing hip fracture risk. When we think of who's going to fracture a hip, we might think of, well, the person who's got a low bone density, or the person who smoked or drank a lot of alcohol. But the people in Finland had a really very interesting approach to this. So they took almost 2,000 women who were 59 years of age, and what they did is they asked them to do 3 simple physical tests. And I'm going to show you those 3 steps today. And then they waited 15 years to see if any of those tests were correlated with an increased risk of hip fracture. And they were highly correlated. I'm going to show you how it was. So the first of the 3 tests was really a very simple test to see how long the woman could stand on one leg. Just one leg, like I'm on a carpet now, it's a little hard to stabilize, but on one leg, you lift the other leg up, and what the test was, 10 seconds. If the woman could stand 10 seconds on one leg. Now, if you're in your home, you might give it a try right now. So I stand quite a bit on my right leg. The left leg, I'm going to see how many seconds I can stand. So in this study, just one leg, they didn't care which leg, to stand 10 seconds. So remember, that's really an important variable. What does it relate to? It relates to balance. Why do people break their hips? Because they fall. 95% of hip fractures are due to falls. So the first test was how standing on one leg for 10 seconds. The second step was to squat down, touch the floor, and come back up. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see me totally, but I'm going to squat down, touch the floor, and come back up. That was the second test. If women at 59 could do that test. Seems simple enough, right? And the third test related to grip strength. You've probably heard me talk about grip strength as a really kind of good measure of overall body strength and certainly upper body strength. Now, grip strength, you can measure with one of these meters where you press really hard, and they actually measure the amount of grip strength. And you've probably seen these little kind of devices where you can exercise your grip strength. Grip strength is a very important indicator of total muscle strength. And so if you say, geez, these cans are getting harder to open, you know your grip strength is probably getting weaker. And remember, if the average woman doesn't do anything, she will lose 45% of her muscle and 45% of her bone as she goes from 35 to 85. For all of us, it's a real challenge. Now, these women in the study from Finland, they weren't doing anything in particular. They were just average women, and they measured how long they could stand on one leg, if they could squat down and pick up something, and their grip strength. And could this predict fracture, hip fracture? Well, the results were really interesting. The most powerful variable was the ability to stand on one leg for 10 seconds. If a woman could not stand on one leg for 10 seconds at the age of 59, she had 8 times the increased risk of fracture 15 years later. So what they did, I don't know if I told you, but what they did is they measured people's strength, and then they waited 15 years to see who was going to fracture. The women were just about 80 then, and the average age of hip fracture is 80. So these were very patient scientists. They measured strength, they waited 15 years, and they saw what happened. So the biggest predictor of hip fracture was if a woman at 59 could not stand on one leg for 10 seconds. So I'm going to suggest, no matter what your age, you practice this. And if you say, I'm a little unstable, there are many ways to build balance. Our exercise evolution, Gina gives you several examples. There's even courses at the hospitals to help people build balance. Most fractures occur because of falls. If you have weak balance, unstable balance, work on it. It's something you can definitely improve. The strongest predictor of hip fracture in this study was women at 59 who couldn't stand for 10 seconds on one leg. The second important one was the inability to go down, touch the ground, and pick up something and come back up. If a woman at 59 could not do that, she had over a 5 times increased risk of hip fracture at the age of 80. Again, fairly youthful women, 59, who couldn't do that, really on the road to hip fracture. And the last one of grip strength, what they did there was a little different. They measured them, they divided them into 4 different groups, the strongest grip strength, down to the lowest grip strength. And the people with the lowest grip strength had a 4-time increased risk of hip fracture compared to the people in the higher second and third and fourth ranking. So the higher the grip strength, the lower the risk of fracture. And the people with very low grip strength had a 4 times increased risk of fracture. So I congratulate the Europeans. They have focused a lot more on building strength and maintaining balance than we have. And I think this is a very interesting study. If a drug had that effect of decreasing the hip fracture by 8 times, that would be pretty dramatic. We know, stay strong. Later I'm going to be teaching you how about muscle strength is really related to bone strength. As we age, we want to pay attention, make big efforts to stay strong. I hope you had fun with this. Do your home test.